The crime that almost destroyed England's economy. In 1696, England was on the brink of economic collapse, not because of war, not because of famine, but because of this. A crime so simple a child could do it, so profitable entire criminal networks formed around it, and so devastating the punishment was being boiled alive. This is the story of coin cripping, the scam that nearly broke Britain. Okay, imagine you're living in 1600s England. There's no paper money, no credit cards, no Venmo. Everything you buy, bread, clothes, rent, you pay for with actual silver and gold coins. Now, here's the thing about these coins. They weren't like the perfectly round, machine-made coins we have today. They were hand-struck, irregular. No two were exactly alike. And that irregularity, that was a criminal's dream come true. Because if you took a pair of scissors, or a file, or a small knife, and you shaved off just a tiny bit of silver from the edge of a coin, who would notice? The answer? Almost nobody. Here's how coin clipping worked. Step 1. Get your hands on silver or gold coins. Easy enough. Just go to the market, buy some bread, get change. Step 2. Carefully clip, file, or shave tiny amounts of precious metal from the edges. We're talking 1 or 2% per coin. Barely noticeable. Step 3. Spend those clipped coins immediately at full value. The baker, the butcher, the landlord, they'd never weigh each coin. They'd just count them and move on. Step 4, and here's where it gets really profitable, collect all those tiny shavings. Clip 100 coins, you might have enough silver for a whole new coin. 1,000 coins? Now you're talking serious money. And here's the genius part, or the evil part depending on your perspective, because each coin was only slightly lighter, and because coins were already irregular, it was almost impossible to catch clippers in the act. You'd pass the clipped coin to someone, they'd pass it to someone else, and by the time anyone noticed it was light, the trail was cold. Now, one person clipping a few coins, that's annoying but manageable. But what happened in England wasn't one person. It was an epidemic. By the 1690s, historians estimate that between 50 to 75% of England's silver coins had been clipped to some degree. 3 out of every 4 coins in circulation had been tampered with. Some coins had lost 10, 20, even 50% of their silver content. This wasn't just crime anymore. This was an economic crisis. Merchants stopped trusting coins. They started weighing every single one. Trade slowed down. Prices shot up because coins were worth less. Good money, the untampered coins, disappeared as people hoarded them. There's actually an economic principle named after this behavior, Gresham's law. Bad money drives out good money. When you have both good coins and bad coins in circulation, people spend the bad ones and keep the good ones. And guess who was behind a lot of this clipping? Not just street criminals. We're talking organized gangs, wealthy merchants, even people in government. Because here's the dark truth. Clipping was incredibly hard to prove and incredibly profitable. Why wouldn't you do it? Well, I'll tell you why. Because if you got caught, the punishment was brutal. We're talking about high treason, the same category as trying to assassinate the king. In England, convicted clippers could be hanged, drawn, and quartered. Women could be burned at stake. Some jurisdictions boiled counterfeiters alive. In 1697 alone, dozens of people were executed for coining offenses. The gallows at Tyburn were kept busy with clippers. But here's the thing. Even the threat of death wasn't stopping people because the reward was too high and the chances of getting caught were too low. England was stuck. The economy was collapsing, but they couldn't arrest their way out of the problem. So what did they do? Enter one of history's most interesting figures, Isaac Newton. Yes, that Isaac Newton, gravity guy. In 1696, Newton was appointed Warden of the Royal Mint, and he had a mission: fix England's money. Newton's solution was radical, the Great Recoinage of 1696. The government would call in all the old clipped silver coins and melt them down. Then they'd mint entirely new coins with two key innovations. Innovation 1, milled edges. Those little ridges you see on the edge of a modern coin, that was Newton's idea. Well, he refined it. If someone tried to clip a milled coin, the ridges would be broken and everyone would know it had been tampered with. Innovation 2, more uniform production. Coins were now made much more consistently with precise weights. You couldn't hide a clipped coin anymore because the difference would be obvious. Now, this wasn't easy. The recoinage took years. It cost the government a fortune. People had to bring in their old coins and sometimes got back less value than they expected because their coins were so degraded. But it worked. By 1699, England had a stable currency again, trade resumed, confidence returned, and coin clipping, while it didn't disappear overnight, was no longer the existential threat it had been. So, what's the lesson here? I think there are actually several. First, money is based on trust. The moment people stopped trusting that English coins contained the silver they were supposed to, the whole system started falling apart. Second, crime follows incentives. When the reward is high and the risk is low, even the threat of death won't stop people. You have to change the game itself. Third, sometimes the solution isn't harsher punishment, it's better design. Newton didn't execute more clippers, he made coins that couldn't be clipped. And finally, this same story keeps repeating throughout history. Different technology, same pattern. Counterfeit paper money, we added watermarks and security strips. Credit card fraud, we added chips and encryption. Cryptocurrency scams, we're still figuring that one out. But the principle is the same. Someone will always try to game the system, and society has to stay one step ahead. So the next time you get change and you feel those little ridges on a quarter, that's a 400-year-old anti-fraud measure. Still doing its job. Pretty cool, right? If you enjoyed this deep dive into historical crime, hit that like button, subscribe for more stories about the scams, cons, and frauds that shaped our world, and drop a comment. What historical scam should I cover next? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.